Though Panzer Dragoon's lifespan was short, Sega was more than willing to branch the series out beyond its main canon. At the beginning of the 1990s, Sega jumped into the handheld market with the Sega Game Gear. And though it was meant to compete with Nintendo's Game Boy, its high price and battery consumption kept it from being a real competitor. As Sega began winding it down in the mid-1990s, the final games released for the system in Japan were branded as Kids Gear titles. Among them included Virtua Fighter Mini, Puzzle Bobble, and Sonic Blast. Lastly, there was Panzer Dragoon Mini, released only in Japan on November 22, 1996. Unlike other entries in the series, Panzer Dragoon Mini is not canonically linked to other games. You can now choose between 3 super cute dragons, all of whom were riderless. And because of the Game Gear's technical limitations, gameplay was much more linear. You could no longer control the camera, as it would automatically switch to a side view during boss fights in certain levels. Story-wise, the game had almost no plot, serving more as the greatest hits of the previous 2 games. Various enemies, bosses, and levels all returned, though the difficulty was much lower than previously and lasted 5 levels, with some playthroughs clocking in under half an hour. Though it was never meant to be taken as a serious entry, Panzer Dragoon Mini has been welcomed by many fans. Due to its Japan-only release late in the Game Gear's life, the game has become a highly sought-after collector's item. Complete copies have gone for several $100s, with few commanding just as much or even more than Panzer Dragoon's Saga. Of course, it wouldn't be the last time the series went portable. In 1988, Sega began licensing out their IPs to Tiger Electronics, known for their LCD handhelds. This partnership continued well into the late 90s and wasn't limited to just classic handhelds they were known for. In 1995, Tiger announced their first cartridge-based console, the R-Zone. While it used the same technology as previous handhelds, the system consisted of headgear and one controller. Games were projected by a red laser onto a plastic eyepiece, and the system launched with only a few games, including Daytona USA, Virtua Fighter 2, and Panzer Dragoon. Gameplay was similar to its Saturn counterpart, but heavily simplified. Due to hardware limitations, the game only repeated one level, and though the R-Zone would be a failure, it wouldn't be the last time they would work with Sega. 2 years later, a new version was released under the Pocket Arcade line. Beyond games, the series has occasionally branched out into other media as well. An anime based on Panzer Dragoon was released on October 10, 1996. The half-hour-long OVA was produced by Production IG and released on VHS and Laserdisc. Though it followed the plot of the original game, it differed in many ways. Kyle was now on a quest to rescue his girlfriend Alita after she was kidnapped and fused with the Black Dragon. The anime was panned by most critics and fans, mostly for its dated CG and unnecessary additions to the plot. ADV Films, who localized it for North America and Europe, went out of business in 2009. Though most of their catalog would go to other companies, it is currently unknown who owns the license or if it will ever get a future release. Panzer Dragoon Orta received its own novelization in 2004, written by Yu Gadai with illustrations by Shinya Kaneko. Over the years, Panzer Dragoon has popped up a few times in other media. A racetrack based on the series was included in Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. In 2015, Kyle Fluge's The Blue Dragon and the World of Panzer Dragoon appeared in the Archie Comics Mega Man and Sonic crossover, Worlds Unite. While the world of Panzer Dragoon is fascinating, none of it would exist if it wasn't for the minds at Team Andromeda and Smilebit. Though both studios are now gone, the people behind them have moved on to do other projects. Soon after leaving Sega, Yukio Fudetsuki would go on to do work on Ring of Red for Konami, and Kenshin no Kotoba, Sony's Japan studio. Soon afterwards, he moved to Microsoft, where he developed the cult classic Phantom Dust, released in 2004. 2 years later, he left to co-found Grounding Inc., and in 2010, Fudetsugi announced a spiritual successor to Panzer Dragoon called Crimson Dragon, originally slated for the Xbox 360. The game went silent until 2013, when it was announced as a launch title for the Xbox One. While many have contributed music to the series, 2 composers have made the most impact. Though his work on the series only lasted 1 game, Yoshitaka Azuma's music set the foundation for the series. He would go on to do music for other games such as To Tanaku, Virus, Happy Hotel, and Poppin' Tanks. Sadly, Azuma passed away in 2012 at the age of 64. Though he is no longer with us, Azuma's legacy lives on in the music of Panzer Dragoon. In 2015, Data Discs released a double LP of the Panzer Dragoon soundtrack. His soundtrack would make a return in the Panzer Dragoon remake in 2020. After finishing Orta, composer Sayori Kobayashi would continue doing soundtracks for games such as Super Monkey Ball Banana Splits and Crimson Dragon. More recently, she composed a rearranged soundtrack for the Panzer Dragoon remake. She later collaborated with vocalist Yumiko Takahashi of Suikoden 2 as the group Akane. The duo performed music by legendary composer Nobuo Uematsu for the game Sakura Note and have released 2 albums. In 2016, Kobayashi released her only solo album, Terra Magica. During his time at Arttoon, Minobu Kusunoki worked on titles such as Pinobi, Yoshi Topsy Turvy, and the Blink series. He's also worked with Mistwalker, doing concept art for Blue Dragon, Terra Battle, and their most recent title, Fantasian. Katsumi Yokota continued work with Sega as lead artist on Rez for the Dreamcast. He would later join Q Entertainment as co-creator, art director, and sound designer for the Lumines series. Kentaro Yoshida would also join Q after being lead artist on Blue Dragon and Lost Odyssey. There he would go on to be production manager of the Pixel Junk series and the Tomorrow Children. Despite not having worked on Panzer Dragoon in over 20 years, these developers have retained their connections to the series, even reuniting to create its spiritual successor, Crimson Dragon. At GDC 2019, Fudetsugi and Yoshida hosted a post-mortem on Panzer Dragoon. Though it may never return, fans have been able to keep the series alive via social media and dedicated sites. With the remakes, that number has only increased as more people are introduced to the series they otherwise would have never heard of. Until the day Panzer Dragoon makes its comeback, fans will continue to look up to those blue skies, waiting for the Blue Dragon to return. Hey everyone, this is I'm 16-Bit here, and I just wanted to take a moment to thank every single one of you who have watched or followed this series over the last year. This is something I've wanted to do for an extremely long time, and so I'm grateful for all of you who have stuck with it since then. It started out as a series of written blogs at the end of 2017, but unfortunately I never really went back and finished it until last April when I was furloughed from my job and I didn't want to sit around playing video games or shitposting on Twitter. So I decided to go back, clean up some of the older blogs because the writing on those was atrocious, and do them as a full video series. It's also been a great learning experience for not just editing, but also how to get these videos out faster. I've developed a new and better process for doing so. But anyway, there's a lot of thank yous I need to get out of the way. First and foremost, I want to thank anyone who was involved with Team Andromeda, Smilebit, and Sega. You guys rock. And without you, I wouldn't be here doing this. So I definitely have to thank every single one of you for creating what I think is one of the most underappreciated franchises in gaming. I also want to thank Panzer Dragoon Legacy, Panzer Dragoon World, Sega Retro, As for the future of this series, this is not a one-time thing. I'm not only going to do just this one retrospective and that's it. I plan on doing more games in the future, and the next retrospective is already in the works, has been since the end of June, and so far I have most of the footage of that series recorded. The script for the first part is already finished. The second part has already begun, and you're probably not going to know what it is until the end of September. But here's a hint. I'm planning to release all parts in October. So that should give you an idea as to what it's going to be. But until then, I'll see you later and have a nice day.